What's up, y'all? This is Hammer here again, back with another video. I'm gonna do an upload this time. I've been doing a lot of live streams lately, but let's get into the video. So, today I want to talk about a phenomenon I've been seeing happening, especially in the red pill and the manosphere space. And I want to call this phenomenon the red pill feminist. And it's not just something I see in the manosphere. I see this happening in the whole right-wing conservative movements, right? In which you will see what I will call ciphers, where you will have women who will show up, right? First, it starts out like these like small movements, right? Then women will kind of show up and say, we're with you guys, we're anti-feminist, we're pro-patriarchy, right? But at the same time, none of them actually push to change the laws, right? Let me give you an example. Let's look at Tomi Lahren, right? Tomi Lahren is very well known as being a white conservative female. She came, through I think through Glenn Beck and his kind of media sphere. And she has been this like radical conservative, pro traditional values, all that kind of stuff, right, on TV. And then she goes to The View, and they ask her views on abortion. She says, I'm pro-choice. And this happened a couple of, I think, years ago. But I'm bringing her because I feel like she represents a lot of what I see in the conservative space and the manosphere. And just because, well, for a very long time, right, when we have looked at feminists, they have not just pushed this whole thing of, taking down the patriarchy. They've also been pushing this idea of LGBT, right? And now that the LGBT is pushing the whole transgender thing and pushing to quote unquote replace, sex with gender identity, you're now starting to see a lot of feminists who are quote unquote spouting right wing talking points. I'm like, there's this woman by the name of Megan Murphy. She was a leader of the feminist current. I'm like, she used to write some of the most craziest articles about men, about, the patriarchy. But see, now that she got canceled by transgenders because she doesn't believe that trans women are women, now all of a sudden she's like, well, it's not so bad in the West. Look, all of this to say what? Is that the vast majority of women in the West are feminists. If you're a female in the West, you're a feminist by default. Because people need to understand, right? When you have chicks like Jessica X, like Just Pearly Things, right? Do you think these women really want to live under a real patriarchy? Do you think Just Pearly Things wants to be a stay-at-home wife where all of her income comes from her husband? Because remember, Just Pearly, in a real patriarchal situation, you don't make your own money, right? All the money you get comes from either your father, your brother, or your husband. So you're completely economic independent. So all the revenue you're making right now from that podcast, that's not happening in the patriarchy, right? In a patriarchy, right, the children go to the father. In a patriarchy, right, if there's divorce, you go back to your father's house. You don't get anything. So a lot of these females out here screaming about how the quote-unquote traditional and shit, they're saying all this with a prerequisite that they keep the feminist rights. Oh, and also, in a real patriarchy, all the political power is in the males. There is no female voting. So if you have a female who says she's anti-feminist, but she believes in women voting, she believes in women being economically independent, she believes in women having custody of kids, she believes in women working, she's not a feminist. She's a feminist. Oh, and also, she believes in child support and alimony laws being in place. She's a feminist. And I want to call this shit out because I've been seeing this happening too many times. I feel like a lot of guys, and I get it, a lot of dudes, look, when it comes to relationships, right, women have the advantage when it comes to sexual access. That's just the reality. Women have the raw advantage when it comes to sexual access. A woman, all she has to fucking do is open her legs and the guy will show up. That's how it goes. All she has to do is fuck, and the guy will show up. A dude is a little different because the guy, he actually had to produce and provide to actually gain sexual access. That's the reason why it's not the same. It's not even close to the same. So when it comes to a female, she can just be, a woman can just exist. She can just exist, and the man that got her before, a guy can't just exist. A guy has to go out there and build shit. And so when you're in that kind of an environment where the women already have the quote-unquote advantage, when you enter a situation where the women cannot provide for themselves, it makes it even worse. Because now they control who has sex, and now they don't need the average man for resources. This is how you end up in a situation in which a growing number of men are becoming insulin virgins, and why I believe that by 2050, a majority of males are going to be insulin virgins. That's the reality. That's the reality. One thing I will say is this, right? Is that in this situation where I think guys have been economically, they've been economically drained, sexually starved, right? Their power stripped away from them. It seems like the only thing they have left is responsibilities. All the power and privileges has been given. So the women get the power and privileges, but you get the responsibility. In fact, it's gotten to a point in which they're still only requiring men to join the selective service. I may do another video on that on my other channel. Even to this day, right, there was a movement to essentially put a woman finally in selective service, right, to finally add women in the selective service, right. Somehow the women were able to dodge that too. So in other words, they want the privilege and the economic power, but they don't want the actual responsibilities. That's the reason why That's the reason why I don't respect women in this position, because I already know the reality is that when push comes to shove, you're not going to be out there. Let's keep it real. From Nancy Pelosi to all these chicks, yeah, it's fun and cool when you have all the quote unquote positions, right? All the nice shit. But if a war breaks out, you're not being sent to the front lines. Every single man in America. Look at what happened in Ukraine, okay? Look at what happened in Ukraine. As soon as Ukraine got invaded, right, every single man in that country, it doesn't matter how old he was, had to go and fight. All the women, including even the female politicians got to leave. And that's what dudes are angry about, is that y'all want the privilege and the benefits, you don't want the responsibilities. When it's fun being a prime minister when the guns start flying and you running. But all the males gotta go and fight, regardless of what they do. At the end of the day, man, look, I'm gonna tell you something right now. There is no such thing as a traditional patriarchal woman in a post-industrial society. If you're a female that lives in a post-industrial, post-feminist society, you are a feminist by default. Don't let these females, because whenever I hear this, whenever I hear a female, right, say, I'm anti, okay, are you willing to give up the right to vote? Are you willing to give up child support laws? Are you willing to give up alimony? Are you willing to essentially give child custody and the man have the custody? Are you willing to give up the right to work, meaning that you rely completely on your father, brother, and your husband? Are you willing to essentially give up any access to political positions? Because that's what real patriarchy looks like. And that's the reason why a lot of these dudes, young guys, don't trust these women anymore, because we know that's not what they want. What they really want, they want a feminist patriarchy. Meaning that they want the men to still have all, and the state too, they want the men to still have all the responsibilities and the burden of performance, but when it comes to but without the power, right? Y'all need to go out here and build. Y'all need to go out here and provide. Y'all need to go out here and quote unquote man up. But at the same time, I'm independent. I don't need no man. You can't tell me shit. Meaning that you need to have the responsibility without the power. That's what I call a red pill feminist. A woman who's out here in these spaces, out here in the manosphere, out here in the conservative sector, saying all the right things, right? But at the same time, she very much wants... Look, there was this debate, right, between Lauren Southern and Undercroner, and this is in the white manosphere. Lauren Southern has been the face of the white conservative movement for a long time. She's just been a female face, right? And Undead Chronic, shout out to him. I have my problems with the white man also, but he called her out. Said, "Look, you have been saying all this shit about anti-feminism, but you still really want to keep this feminist shit going." And it says she says was that what? She only believes in tradition, in patriarchy, as long as the men doing shit. But when it comes to her, she very much wants to keep all her rights. And it's like, that's the reason why guys are checking out. Because guys want to realize, you guys don't really want equality. You want privilege without the responsibility. And so I'm sorry. Any woman who lives in a post-industrial society, you are feminist by default. And if a chick says no, ask her this question. Are you willing to give the right to vote? Are you willing to give up, quote unquote, a child support, alimony? Are you willing to, quote unquote, rely economically on your father, brother, and husband? And also, are you willing to give all political power to the males? If the answer is no, then you're a feminist. That's the reality. We gotta start being honest here. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you're a woman living in the post-industrial societies, you're a feminist by default. Because most of these females, any quote-unquote, none of these females truly believe in traditional patriarchal. They don't. Anytime they come to the table, it's under the prerequisite that they keep the feminist rights. And so God needs to call that shit out. I'm like, now we have Just Pearly Things saying that she, quote-unquote, me too some black guy. I'm like, are you fucking serious? So the quote-unquote new, quote-unquote, red pill feminists, Just Pearly Things, is now doing, quote-unquote, me too and guys in real life? Come on, y'all. And Jessica X, you don't even know how she looks like? Come on, y'all. But with that being said, y'all, I'm going to let y'all go. And make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Hammer out.